the technology, the operation systems. They're able to very quickly just swoop up, grab those assets, and now they can control an entire market.
Contractors, welcome to the Modern Contractor Network. This is the Modern Contractor Roundtable. I am your host, Johnny V. And today with us, we have Jay Carter once again from Contractor AI. Jay, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, I kind of dragged you back. I didn't really have to pull teeth either. You were.
No, I like this kind of stuff. I'm kind of passionate about it. So anytime somebody wants to talk shop with me, I'm down.
Dude, on our last interview, you got into something, and it was really brief. Like it had a lot to do with the movement of capital investment into
yes.
construction industry. And
right.
It weighed on me for like weeks until I finally asked you, like, let's concentrate, let's dig in on this, because in your world, this is normal. Like, you know what's happening.
Absolutely.
But the truth is, contractors don't understand what this means. So please take.
Yeah. So. First thing to understand is, venture capital is essentially a group of investors or, corporations that essentially they go and, buy up assets. Okay. So traditionally, blue collar businesses, contractors and stuff have sort of been a stay away, and for good reason, is they weren't systemized. It was very easy hard to plug and play. They were tied to owners. They still very much are, but something has greatly shifted in the market. So two things that have really driven a big change in this. Number one, I would say, is technology has become very advanced in terms of how and the speed of which we can move. So we've seen a big technology shift. We've also seen a lot of technology companies technology marketing companies. So you take Angie's List, you take, those kind of services that know how to market obviously very well. They're generating leads, but they own the marketing side, team up with technology companies that are able to go in and provide, quoting services and, using AI for, estimating and stuff. And really what this is creating is an absolute monster in our market. So I'll give you a good example is Angie's List has became a contractor. And what they've done in some of the southern states is that they came up with, for example, for painters. So now in some places a homeowner can go to their website like they always did, but they can get an instant quote. And all they're going to do is take a picture of their room, all right? And it's going to come back with an immediate price for that. And then they use that network to basically turn contractors into employees of theirs, okay? So this is a scary prospect. Now, on the other side of that, and now that's sort of a new, evolving, form of venture capital. They're highly funded, but there's this other group that are seeing the benefit of having blue collar businesses. Because here's the reality: they're high ticket, okay? They're in general like lower risk, lower to market expense. Like it's really, again, we can really associate it with looking at it from the form of an investment, okay? So now, what they're starting to do is seeing the two things. Number one is we're going to have a lot of baby boomers and Gen Xers that have formerly, sort of filled the space, starting to retire, and a lot of businesses are for sale. A lot right now. Like it's just starting. It's really going to start to pick up where there's all of these assets that basically can be picked up for pennies on the dollar. Because, when a contractor goes out of business, unless he's done these couple things I'll let you know about, there's really no value in those businesses. You're selling your equipment, you're selling your tools, and and can you think of a bigger shame to go out of this, spend 40 years building a business, working that business, to be told at the end of it it's not worth, more than the equipment? That's a shame.
It was a joke.
So there's a couple of, that's right. So they see that, and when, these contractors are retiring or, companies are being bought up, they can amalgamate companies very quickly. And because of the level of organization that, like stuff like what Contractor AI provides, the technology, the operation systems, they're able to very quickly just swoop up, grab those assets, and now they can control an entire market, right? And this is very scary. So if you have unlimited budget to market, okay, so let's say you're being funded by a hedge fund or whatever, and all of a sudden you have $2 million to just strictly market. All right. You're going to very quickly move and push out anybody that's, in your way, more or less, right? There's not going to be a lot of strong competition, and they're going to be highly organized, highly educated, which is a new emerging thing that we're seeing. So we're seeing corporate companies that are very, very well ran coming in, putting in real management systems and really creating these blue collar assets. Okay. And they're capable of generating massive amounts of revenue. And the danger here, you may or may not remember, but when in the, back in the day, hardware stores used to be like mom and pops, right? Like, there was a different hardware store for every city you went to. What happened is big venture capital came in, funded, the Home Depots and the Lowe's, and they went into those markets and they basically underpriced everything to the point that they put every other competitor out of business.
Right.
Okay. Which is exactly what could happen in this situation if contractors don't start to, wake up and kind of smell the coffee and see what's happening in front of them. So, they're strongly resistant to using technology. They're strongly resistant to, modernizing their businesses. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be because, we're not just fighting, the truck and ladder or the other guys. We have a bigger threat on the horizon here is that when these companies start to come in, they have a lot more firepower, a lot more organization, and you could very well end up being an employee of theirs. And we're going to see the very first billion-dollar company, billion-dollar, home service company or a billion-dollar, contractor, and we're already starting to see it. So they're coming and they're buying up, and especially down in the States and now into Canada, they're buying up like, larger contractors. When you can go in, that owner might be looking at retirement or an exit soon. All right. There's not much fight there to hold on to those assets. And then all it takes is linking a few of these things together. And next thing you know, you've unleashed a modern franchise of, let's say a painter, let's say a roofer, or maybe a combination of all of them. Right.
Jay. So they come in, they have this immense amount of capital backing them. They come in
massive,
afford to run at a loss. And
correct for an extended period of time. So I have we do a lot of consulting, and we get the privilege of I've seen thousands of contracting businesses. My last 5 years has all been helping contractors of every size, shape, and form you can imagine. Every combination, every setup. We've really seen a lot of them. Now, where we have started to see some very hostile, competition coming in, and I'll use one of the examples I shared with you this week. We have a company we're working with that's fighting back, but they're a home security business. They've been in business, I would say probably 40 years or so, 50 years, something like that. We get a lot of these home security businesses, and the thing about them is they tend to be the older ones. The mature ones are very, very stable because they have reoccurring revenue. Right. I'm going to explain that to you in a second, but they go after these reoccurring revenue companies, and it's not necessarily new in that space. But what is new and what has been happening is these companies will come in and they'll say, hey, I'm going to make you an offer. Basically, they'll come in and they'll just flat out be like, here's how much we're offering you. If you refuse it, all right, that's followed up by, a conversation of, okay, if you're not going to cooperate, then, we have no choice but to move into your market and directly target your clients.
Come on.
And I'm not kidding you. And I mean, again, I've sat with an owner in tears over the threats that were made, and it was over a period of time. And we're working with them now because they didn't have, highly sophisticated sales processes. They didn't have campaigns going. They've always lived off of word of mouth. They built this beautiful business. For them, it was more about, retiring into the business. They wanted to hire a general manager. They didn't want to let this thing go. They're very connected to it. They have kids they wanted to pass it on to. And the answer was no. They didn't want to sell out to these, this venture capital. And the pressure that had been put on them. And then other things started happening, maybe related, maybe not, but they were being reported to IRS. They were like, these people were not playing around. So they're connected in a lot of different ways. So this company And again, luckily they were on point, but you know, we're still fighting back on this. And we're working with them to modernize their operations, to get Mac, because they were clearly, it was predatory the way they came in. They're the largest. Yeah, well, but it is. No, but it is. And here's the thing. It's not new. So this has been going on for in terms of venture capital. If you look at our real estate markets, if you look at, what BlackRock's doing across North America right now, buying up all the real estate, making sure no one can afford a home because they want everyone to rent, right? Like that's happening all through the Sun Belt. Like that's not new. That's been going on for a long time. Now like I said, there's been a big shift, and where they're now turning their head and looking at blue collar businesses, they're going high ticket, right? Generally lower risk than some other business. Like you're not setting up a manufacturing plant. There's not massive capital to put out to start single locations. And the advancement of marketing in the internet has made it so that people can be like this emerging market of people that want the Amazon experience is opening these doors. There's no personal interaction, and they can go in and sell, a $3,000-$4,000 paint job without ever meeting anyone. And I know in our business, we're doing the same, I own a roofing company, and we do the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. And we're losing that touch. And that was the kind of thing, like a lot of these businesses were built on handshakes and relationships. That's not a thing no more. Right. So now it's just, again, we are going to go through this evolution, and really where I see, my vision, and I think actually we align on it, is that, the contractor of the future has to get smarter, has to work on the business more and really understand the technology and the things, the systems and everything else. You can't just get by being a good tradesman. You can't just get by doing those things. You have to protect yourself, right? So again, I often say to contractors, hey, you have nothing to worry about with AI or any technology, to be honest with you. That's a tool. What you do have to be worried about is somebody using AI and you trying to compete with them not using it. So if you think about it that way, it's not going to be AI that replaces you. It's going to be somebody using AI that replaces you, right? Same thing goes. It's not going to be venture capital that replaces you, right? It's going to be somebody that has access to venture capital that comes in and takes you out. So we really have to be on guard for this. And you have to, I think a lot of contractors live in a bubble in terms of, understanding like, hey, you know what, it'll be a long time before robots or AI ever replace a tradesman on the job site. It's going to be a long time. Okay. And that's a very stable market, where other markets right now, the financial markets, the real estate market, all of those markets are all a big threat right now with the advancement of technology. Everybody's feeling this pressure. Yep. There's going to be jobs lost, right? But we're still going to start to see growth, through them. But we're going to lose a lot of the what would we call them? Like blue collar office jobs, blue collar, like those middle range jobs. And they know that now there's going to be an influx into the trades. They're pushing it that way. I think it's strategic. I mean, in Canada here, we're short 3 million homes. It's driving up the value of the house. The governments are stepping in, putting a lot of money into construction so these guys aren't stupid, right? They know they can get funded. Like it's just, there's a lot of capital that's going to be pushed into building, construction. Yeah. And when that happens, now you get a different, more sophisticated business, true businessmen, entrepreneurs that are coming in. They have nothing to do, no background in the trades, and that's cool. I mean, that's it. But they're highly funded, and that's the dangerous part. They're not playing a fair game with anybody. And they're coming from a corporate world where, I mean, you think it's cutthroat now. Wait till you see what these guys are capable of doing. And I've seen it with my own eyes. And it's not, that example I shared with you is one of many examples that I have encountered. Some good, some bad. I mean, we've helped to get businesses ready for sale that have been sold to venture capital. One of my my proudest company success stories is a landscaper, again in his late 50s, I believe. No kids, had built a $1 million business, cutting grass. Okay. Yeah. 15, 20 years, came to us, no systems, no process. He was still honest to God, he would still forget it. Like he would write a receipt with a pen and paper and hand it to the owners when he could meet with them. He had so much receivables. He'd been cutting people's lawns for years, hadn't billed them, like crazy, like just a genuinely like cool guy, but no business sense. So within like a year or 2 years of us working with him, we got his business working. So he wasn't ever on the lawnmowers, but we got him, up to this really stable $1 million recurring revenue, everything being managed very well, systemized, like everything you want to see in a good contractor. And we knew that he was looking for exit, and,
right.
He had never thought about it ever. But here's what he and what we helped him to do is to realize the importance of a reoccurring revenue in your business. Okay. So again, in terms of what they're looking for and what, they will come in is a couple of things. So if you're going to get a business evaluation done of your contracting business, reoccurring revenue is very, very important. So for plumbers, electricians, like, a lot of the maintenance contracts and stuff that are available. Yeah. Like these venture capitals are all over that because they'll buy those contracts up, and now they can start these franchises right on that have better systems. They don't really care about the business. They tear it apart and they're taking over the service contracts. Okay. So the other thing that they look at is how tied the owner is to the actual business. So nobody wants to buy an asset that falls down the day the owner leaves, right? So they're going to look at, can the owner be removed from the operations, right? So that's a very important thing. Like how connected is the owner? No one's buying. And again, it doesn't matter if you're doing 10, 15, 20, $30 million. If you are the center, the CEO of the world, and you've built your operation completely around yourself, you're going to get a lower valuation.
You leave, there's no customers. That's
right.
And simple. Yeah.
So the other thing they're going to look at is your ability to outbound sales. Okay. So how quickly can you generate leads? What sources are you using? So again, when I say outbound, like that could be door knockers, that can be, cold callers, that can be like, those things are very valuable, especially in like the home service area. So a lot of companies, are you completely dependent on paid ads? Are you like, where are your sources of revenue coming from? The more diverse and the more advanced that they are. So again, a company doing $4 million that has 5 different pipelines of sales coming in is a far more stable company than one that's doing the same amount of money with one source of leads, right? So they'll also look at the maturity of your sales systems, and then they look at the overall operation. Is it a well-ran machine? Is it systemized? Does it, what kind of technology does it have? CRMs, operation systems, they're going to go through all of that. That tends to be less valuable because you can you can hire people to come in and fix a lot of those things, right? But that's going to basically be what the evaluation is on. And I think a lot of guys misunderstand that it's not about revenue. Okay. So my dude that got the $1 million, landscaping business, doing very, very good profit margins, were really good. So he's making about 50% net profit on $1 million, so 500,000. I think between 400,000 and 500,000 on a landscaping business. That's really, really good. He got bought for 10 times rev, so he got $10 million to walk away from that contract, and I was blown away. That was a wake up call to me because at the time, I'm running an 8-figure roofing contracting business, and I'm like, I must be worth 100 then, right? I get the same evaluations done, and I'm worth less than what rev is. I'll tell you that. So it was a wake up call to understand that when you're in business, you should be in your business to build an asset. And what we're seeing now, and what I'm trying to really communicate to everyone, is the blue collar businesses are going to be sought after assets. Okay, and you can really build a major asset. So we're going to also see a lot of flipping of companies and mergers, acquisitions, stuff like that that's coming through. And again, when the money starts to flow into these places, you're going to see some very dramatic and quick changes. I think the government's also going to fuel this because in the States, in Canada, we have a massive housing crisis. That's the government coming in, changing regulations, moving laws. Now, this is the other threat here, is that they have enough influence, and like a lot of these venture capitals have lobbyists and can change, change rules. We're seeing a lot of that. So, for example, I'm aware of a situation where, a venture capitalist coming in and bringing in Mexican workers, bringing in foreign work trades, and it's fully funded by the government. So everyone they're bringing in, and like again, trying to compete with the local workforce is impossible. Like you cannot keep up with that labor cost. So they're doing like what the farmers do here in Canada. They can bring in 50, immigrant or first Canadian workers, and then put them head to head with our deplenished workforce. Yeah. And we'll get demolished. That's an unfair advantage that they've lobbied for from the government. So in Canada here, we have the LEMA, which they're bypassing, by the way, like they're completely going around that, which is the labor impact study. These guys have lobbied, and they have, again, I'm seeing it firsthand, and again, it's a scary thing that they're getting themselves deals where they can bring in 50 LEMA, foreign workers, right, and come into a construction for a framing example, right? Now they have 50 workers working at a wage or at a rate that we can't, and they can basically enslave them. They can, they're running big shifts. Yeah. And what people don't realize is it's not just a guy in a truck doing it. It's not just, Jose that had some family back home. These are well-organized, well-funded, companies coming in and doing it. There's also
influence,
right. And exactly. There's one more even scarier thing that has been happening, and you may have noticed, you may have not, but you'll notice a lot of manufacturers all of a sudden. So you'll notice the same product being offered by a ton of different companies that are coming in that are smaller operations. It's called a carousel scam. Okay. And I know for a fact, again, there's been some big ones. There's about to be a huge bust, I believe, in the Toronto area, I hope. But what they're doing is basically a big company or a well-funded, who knows where their money could come. It could be foreign as well. So in Ontario and in Canada, we are susceptible to having foreign venture capital or investment companies coming in and taking advantage of our markets. And here's how they do it. So they come in and they will have a product. So for me, for example, metal roofing shingles. Okay. They're going to say that, hey, we have these Eastern European metal shingles. Now they're made here. They bring all the steel from wherever. And what they do is they set up hundreds of little companies, all right, little like roofing companies, and they start to spin the money. So the product gets sold to all these little companies. Okay. And then each of those little companies start to loan, like one company does the labor, one company does, whatever. And what it's doing is it's spending the money around and around. At the end of the day, that money goes back out of Canada, and all the HST, all of the money that's supposed to be collected for the taxes, is being shown as a loss. So then the big company that came in originally now takes a credit from the government, of Canada, out of every taxpayer that it's being sucked right out of us. Big time threat. So this is happening all over the place.
So we're seeing tax credit,
years of tax credit, but they've also stolen all of the HST, so they can come in and do things at a loss. So they're coming in and selling product into our markets that are driving down rates and driving down the local companies' ability to compete. And, basically those smaller companies, they spin that money back around, and it's going back out too. So they've stolen the HST, and then they're taking the tax credits and actually getting refunds from our government is giving them on top of that, which is crazy. And I don't know how Canada is so susceptible, because this used to happen a lot in Europe. It's not a new scam or anything, but it's happening. And anybody that's out there, look for those foreign companies that all of a sudden have, they're a supplier. There's a main supplier that's buying up product, and then you'll see they have, 30 other little companies that pop up that are buying the product. Right. Well, that's the scam, is that they sell all that product at a loss to all these smaller companies, and by the time the government catches up to them, they're gone. They're dissolved. Right. And that's been going on. And it's very, in Ontario especially, it's super dangerous because of the high tax. So that when you can collect 13%, well, that's basically anybody's profit margin.
That's a good point.
right? Yeah. And why are they setting up? So they set up in places like Montreal, they're in Toronto, in the GTA, in Ontario, they're really bad. Out west, they're bad. And again, you'll see them pop up. You'll see all this product get pumped into the market, and then boom, they dissolve and it starts up somewhere else. So it's, again, you know, there's a lot of pressures that are being put on, you know, the blue collar. And what I'm really, you know, what I'm really trying to communicate here is, you know, when you start to see that kind of money coming into a blue collar business or thing, we all have to have a defense. Okay. And again, we're getting to a place now where, you know, companies can move very quickly. Marketing, you know, is not like marketing 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Because it's never been easier. It's never, ever been easier to acquire the exact customer that you want in history, ever. It's never been easier. So just as much as there's threats, there's also equal amount of opportunity. Again, if I'm, you know, from my perspective in the blue collar, like, there's so much opportunity, but guys need to be educated more on the business aspect of things and systems and like these other, you know, these other things that are really important for sustainability and for understanding. And I think, again, it's, you know, there's no university yet, as far as I know, for, you know, Contractor University. There are business schools, right? We have to decide, hey, is the Contractors going to still own the market like they have up to this point? Like, if you can't get the work done, you don't have the skills, right? We can't give that up to these kind of companies coming in and, you know, basically manipulating us into becoming slaves to their, you know, their money or their, you know, their tactic, right?
So Jay, yeah, I brought you on because like this had me like really just spun up, and now, you know, hearing you like really articulate what's going on, what's happening. I mean, I got to be honest with you, it's not making it any better for me. And I think I was hoping that it would, but like, okay, obviously the good news is we have something that they want. The bad news the bad news is we have something that they want.
Right.
Now, the question is and you mentioned it briefly about like, there's all this technology out there, they're using it. We got to leverage it too. And that's the only way out. Is there anything else that we can do, like even coming together as a community?
Yeah,
like really kind of
100%. So again, you think about what we're talking about here. Absolutely. So the more education that you have, the more knowledge that you have. All right, that's your power. That is truly, as a contractor. And here's the other thing that's very important. And I know this might be a little over the top for most people. Is data is actually the biggest business in the world. Okay. So if you know that data is your biggest asset, and if you heard what I said about how they evaluate a business, okay, how they look at a business, own your data. Make sure that you are becoming a data-driven contractor, okay, for two reasons. Is number one, if I wouldn't have known any of this stuff, none of that, like what I just shared with you, would have, you know, could have, even as a consultant, gone right over my head and I wouldn't have realized it. But there's one thing that I really am a nerd for is understanding data. Like why do certain circumstances occur? Like why is this business, you know, preferred over this business or that business?
Right.
And I'll tell you, every one of those businesses that I just talked to you about had one single thing in common, and that's they had very good insight and they used data to make decisions. Okay. So when as a contractor, if you can take the mindset of I need to use technology so that I understand my business, you know, intimately, and data does. Data cuts all the bullshit and everything else, because people can lie, there can be, but numbers never do. Okay, so for contractors that are out there listening and that, you know, are you know, looking at the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, realize that your data is more valuable than any truck, any guys, any equipment, any contracts. Your data is really what you need to protect. Being careful on who you deal with in terms of CRM systems, who's financing those CRM systems, because you're being looked at and you're giving away. You're not buying a CRM. Why are CRMs so cheap? Let me explain to you why they're so cheap. They do not make money off of running the stuff for you. You knobs, like, open your eyes. They make money off of selling your data, off of owning the data that you put into those CRMs. So again, if you don't want to open the door for these things to happen, look at who you're doing business with. So, you know, the CRM systems, the project management systems, you know, be very cautious and think of it as, you know, again, you're not going to take your money to put in the bank of Nigeria, are you? Right? Same thing with your data. Make sure that you own that data. Make sure you own your websites. Make sure you own your marketing. Don't let other companies that have, you know, again, and we all get swept up in the same thing. The Angie's List, like, you guys don't realize that they're data companies. They're like, Facebook's a data company. Like, they make money off of data, guys. They make money off of you interacting with it. They don't make money off the thing that you think they're servicing. That's the catch, right? Just like these CRMs that are out there. So I want everyone to really open their eyes and be aware of, know who you're in business with, right? And that means the services that you buy. That means the marketing, you know, subscriptions that you support. Look behind those things and treat them like, you know, again, we put way too much stress. We pull our credit cards out and download these subscriptions and jump on all these things. You gotta slow down and really think about these processes and really understand that, you know, without the data, or if your data was open for anybody to come in and take, all right. So if I'm a venture capital and I happen to own the CRM system that you're putting all your data into, and I decide I'm going to be the contractor now, what defense do you have? I can come in and take all of your customer base.
I don't think
scary
contractors. No, exactly. I don't now. I have a friend that we're going to be interviewing actually very soon. That works for the biggest data company in the world.
Yep.
And I don't think people understand how much of a hole construction has left in data acquisition, because we are 20 years behind people. Like, which project management data, customer client, like, it goes on forever. The only thing they can get their hands on are permit pulls, like, very superficial shit. But
that's changing very quickly in front of our eyes. And again, there's going to be traps that are set, and there already are. So, like, you know, anybody, and I'm gonna throw out a name like Builder Trend, that is bought by a venture capital company. And guys, like, use your head, really think about the thing for a second. Okay, why are those things so heavy data entry? Why do they need to know unless you put in it, what can't they get out? Like, what can't, like, again, think about it. Just use your head. Like, and they're spending more money than they're bringing in subscriptions. And they're being traded, you know, like, very large assets. Use your brains, guys. You have given it up. That's right. Well, again, it's you know, it's a double whammy, right? Same thing, you know, we're looking at where you market. You know, that's even being captured by CRMs now, which, I mean, I don't disagree with, and we do it with Contractor AI, but we know damn well that our data is very well protected. We own it on servers. We know that it's not being sold, and we're very clear about that, because that's, to me, is one of the biggest threats. One of the saddest, scariest prospects is, you know, a big, you know, venture capital, which they're buying up these software, like, technology companies, and you're giving them all of your business assets. You're putting it in their bank.
That's it. Especially with all these data-hungry applications like AI. Right?
Yep.
Just need the data to be able to operate. Like, and by the way, Builder Trend, I don't know, a lot of contractors don't realize that Builder Trend also recently, within the last couple of years, acquired Co-Construct. Like, they are merging and acquiring each other. They're becoming,
and they're not developing it. No. They're not developing it. And again, just think about the reason why that would be so valuable. So now, if you're on the other side of that, all right, and let's just, you know, hypothetically think. Let's say that, you know, you're owned by a venture capital, which they are. Okay, it's an investment group that also owns Angie's List.
Right.
Okay.
Enough said.
That's exactly what's happening.
Enough said.
Right. So now my customer that got pressured, there was one little piece that I left out of that particular story, and it'll make a lot of sense now. So he's a really, really smart, the one with the alarm company. Okay. He has an original CRM built on a server, had it built like umpteen million years ago. All the security systems, he had like built outside of like a off the shelf CRM. So his data is what they were. That's what they were after. That's what they were pressuring him on.
His own internal server.
Yep. He's seen this play 22 years or 25 years ago. His and again, I don't want to get too far into this, but this particular gentleman, his father actually, when they were coming up with the internet and talking about doing like surgery over the internet, he patented a product that was basically now being used in that technology that allows people to basically do operations. So very, very like forward thinking. And he understood the importance of holding back on this stuff. And now he has, again, like inaccessible data. He's never given into it. They've never been able to access it. Right. And, you got to wonder, some of these other companies that have seen huge losses and stuff, why, like if someone has access to your customer list and then can directly market to those customers at a whim, like what do you think is happening? Right? Like crazy, right?
I have I have a friend that has a Facebook group. Not to tell you what it is. Over 100,000 members in this Facebook group. Was approached by many CRM companies, but one in particular that is offering him an absolute sweetheart deal to try and get to acquire or to bring his CRM into the Facebook group and market it. Incredibly cheap, so cheap it's hard to say no to, and didn't realize until I explained to him what the value of the data that he's offering this company, right?
Crazy.
And all they intend to do is acquire the users and exit.
Yep. That's all they're going to do.
To who?
Well, but here's the thing though. So like the value of an email list or a contact list, right? Like when you have a sales wing, like, think about, and now add AI into it.
Right.
Add AI into this thing. So, and I know with Contractor AI, what we're doing with, certain things, and we're seeing a lot of, laws being put into place, the A2P laws, like where the anti-spamming and all that. But guys, here's the simplest way to look at this. Since AI was released, which was basically back in April, where it became really mainstream, it's been around forever, but like before everyone really kind of had access to it, I think there was like 1 trillion transactions per second or something in terms of data that's being pushed across the internet. Since then, it's 10x'd. So that means, I'm talking about email servers, I'm talking about new web pages, new content, not new, but new. It's 10 times. That is it's baffling to think that it took all this time to get to that point. And in the course of 6 months, we've 10x'd that content output and that information output. So again, if you don't think we're in the data era, like you got to really wake up and smell the coffee. And again, if you're, and you've got to be, for every contractor that's out there, make sure you know where your information is being shared and protect your data. That's your asset. That's what's going to be worth money in the future. That's what they're coming after. If you want to sell it to them, no problem. But I'll be damned if they come in back door and steal it from you. Right. So, and that's the risk we're all facing right now, is that these CRM, some of these CRM companies, now they're not all the same, but like they're owned by big companies that are invested in other companies that have interests. They're doing it strategically, right? So just be careful.
And beware, like all you contractors out there, like, I mean, like Jay is trying to make us all aware of like the impact, the value that the blue collar sector actually has out there. Like,
it's huge.
Is immense. We have to protect it. We have to come together and most of all, share information like this. Like this is why we're talking about this, because as much as you believe, Jason, that everybody knows this, nobody knows this, and they don't truly realize the impact of it. And I'm really happy that you came on to discuss it. Is there
absolutely
else you think that we should all know?
Yeah, no, I think just, on top of all the scary stuff we talked about, there is an abundance of high leverage opportunities. Again, I think we're going into probably the golden age of contracting. I see so many positive things happening. I see so many progressive businesses out there, so many guys that are killing it. Like, I have clients, I mean, again, I live, breathe to watch these guys, go from defeated, contractor, like ready to quit to, becoming absolute beasts and champions in their own market. So again, as scary as the things we talked about, there is equal, if not more, and I believe in the, this entrepreneur spirit that's within the contracting market. That's why I've been in it. I drank the Kool-Aid many years ago, and I continue to do so. So, as much as the negative stuff that we may have talked about, there is so much positive, so much abundance, so much opportunity. You guys just need to get out there and get it. You need to put yourself in the right circles, the right people, and everybody deserves their fair piece of the pie. And I mean, again, it's a great time to be a contractor for sure.
As long as we all realize that from a day where we were competitors, we are now comrades. That
Absolutely.
That we need to come together and see each other as one industry protecting itself.
Right.
Jay,
absolutely. Can't agree more.
Having you on. I'd love to have you again. Dude.
For sure.
Thank you.